But welcome everybody. Be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to hit the subscribe button.
I remember in middle school when you felt self-conscious if you were the last one to go through puberty. That really went topsy-turvy, didn't it?
Sometimes the Hasbara, it's too much explaining yourself and it's too apologetic.
Be sure to hit the notifications bell.
I actually do believe Israel won't just bomb countless civilians.
Be sure to tweet this out. Be sure to put this up on your Facebook.
You have to be kind to people. Be kind to the guys in this mess in the first place.
Put this up on your Reddit.
Chile is a country.
Be sure to cut and paste, a link to this to go into your favorite Facebook chat group.
It's good to see so many normal people in here.
Now, spanking isn't just my deep, dark personal secret. It's America's deep, dark secret.
I've never seen it explained so simply anywhere.
Put this on WhatsApp. Put this on Telegram. Put this on your favorite messenger app.
Hello and welcome to the Untitled Anarchist Seagull channel. I'm your host at Untitled Anarchist Seagull, called Elise. And I think we've got some interesting stuff lined up. I wanted to talk a little bit about Chevron deference because liberals on Twitter are losing their shit over the end of Chevron deference. Which, I mean, let's just start out and note that the U.S. Supreme Court is an utterly illegitimate institution, especially at the moment when it is full of just far-right ghouls. But that doesn't make Chevron deference this, unalloyed good that it's being made out to be. I saw somebody amazingly liken the end of Chevron deference to fucking Plessy versus Ferguson, the case that enshrined the concept of separate but equal back in, 1899. And for anyone who's not familiar with the concept, which is probably almost everybody, because it is some administrative law shit that basically nobody else ever really thinks about. It is a rule of administrative law that says essentially that when there is ambiguity in statutory language, an administrative agency that courts have to defer to the interpretation given to it by an administrative agency that's responsible for applying the statute. So, in the original case, Chevron versus Natural Resources Defense Council, you had an environmental group in 1983, well, probably 1982 originally, but it got to the Supreme Court by 1983, suing Chevron over air pollution. And Chevron's defense was that they were complying with regulations from the Reagan EPA, which made it really easy to get away with polluting shit. And so the NRDC responded and said, that it's an unreasonable interpretation of the statute. It should be disregarded, which was the rule up till then, that under the Administrative Procedures Act, I know this is terribly exciting, you would, if the court decided that an interpretation was unreasonable, then they could set aside that regulation and decide the case directly without regard to it. So the Supreme Court sided with Chevron. And you know that a doctrine's really good when the Supreme Court is siding with fucking big oil. Those are the doctrines that are an absolute unalloyed good that we absolutely have to have in order to guarantee a decent standard of living or whatever. And they said no, if it's reasonable, if there's ambiguity in the statute that authorizes the regulation, then the interpretation given to it by the administrative agency, in this case the EPA, has to just be deferred to. Now, that is a double-edged sword, is the thing. Because sometimes you have regulations that are perhaps somewhat stretching the interpretation of the authorizing statute and are good. And then it's useful to have a doctrine that says that the courts need to defer to them. But sometimes You have regulations that exist in our just utterly captured regulatory environment, where that are just exist to give big corporations a pass. And the people who would be challenging those regulations are people who are being screwed over by those companies with the aid of those regulations. And in that sort of a situation, perhaps Chevron deference isn't a great thing. And then there's another context. There's one context where it is not a double-edged sword, where Chevron deference, this doctrine that I've just laid out to you, is simply bad, actually. And that's immigration law. It's bad in immigration law because virtually all of what goes on in the immigration law context happens within an administrative agency. One of various at this point. It's either CBP or it's ICE or Citizenship and Immigration Services, or at the final administrative level of appeals when somebody's trying to avoid getting deported, either based on getting political asylum or under the Convention Against Torture, which are separate, even though a lot of courts pretend that they're the exact same thing. Then it's the Board of Immigration Appeals. And Chevron deference in this context has meant that courts apply a ridiculous standard of review. So, but the only time that an actual court, as opposed to agency decision makers, administrative agency decision makers, who are under orders either from the Attorney General at the federal level or the Secretary of Homeland Security, depending on which agency it is, the only time an actual independent Article 3 court hears it is on what's called a petition for review, which goes to the Circuit Court of Appeals that has jurisdiction in the case. And in order to get these life and death decisions, denying asylum, denying protection under the Convention Against Torture, overturned, you have to show that there is basically zero evidence that could actually back up the agency's decision. The rule is, and I'm quoting, if there is more than a scintilla of evidence supporting the decision, the agency's ruling stands, and the person has to get deported no matter what's going to happen to him. That's Chevron deference in the immigration context. And so when I heard Chevron deference got struck down, I was curious. I had assumed that they would probably try to find some carve-out, these fucking ghouls, that they could use to ensure that at least in the immigration context things continue as usual. But actually they didn't. And I decided I immediately got the decision and decided to look for the abbreviation BIA for Board of Immigration Appeals. I was trying to find something that might indicate where they stood on the immigration issue, even though that wasn't what was before them. And what I found was Gorsuch's concurrence actually very specifically said, yes, we are doing this in the immigration context as well, pointing out how, and he's a fucking ghoul too. It's worth noting. I mean, he started a student group at university called Fascism Forever. Wonderful chap. But he pointed out that there was a time when he was an appeals court judge, and Chevron deference screwed over a refugee who was before them. So essentially, it's been thrown out in the immigration context as well, and that's a good thing, actually. That is just absolutely a good thing. It's not that this Supreme Court is not made up of absolute fucking ghouls. It is. But there are judges in the lower courts who, given being freed of Chevron deference in a lot of situations, might actually do something good with it. Particularly in the immigration context, where it has meant that huge numbers of people just don't get anything resembling due process. So, just to recap, Chevron deference was an extremely double-edged sword outside of the immigration context, and it was just an unalloyed evil in the immigration context. And anyone acting like this was the best thing in the world and now they've taken it away from us is just, they're just completely full of shit. Is all I gotta say about that. So we've got some interesting stuff. I was, yesterday, I had been talking about this. The CIA propaganda films made for Iraq in the 1950s that I had read reviews of, declassified focus group reviews from Iraq from the 1950s of these movies. And then a U.S. National Archive YouTube channel had 2 of them. We watched one of them yesterday, and I was thinking we might start out by watching the other one. It's a shorty, it's only 11 minutes, and just see what it was that the Iraqis in 1950 felt so utterly insulted by, and just said was just such crap. What's everyone think, chat? How's everybody doing? This is called The Hoja's Strange Ways. See, they base these propaganda films on a beloved character of Muslim folklore called Nasreddin Hoja, who is this sort of wise man, teacher kind of person, brings the moral lessons, and is also kind of a little bit mischievous. But let's see how the CIA does it. Is that as good as it gets? No, we got HD. Good. I mean, already with the Orientalism. Good to see you back, Riveroon. The audio is in English. They did an English dub, I suppose, for archival purposes. So it isn't in Arabic. Bonsoir. We're watching a Red Scare film. This is CIA propaganda that they made for Iraq in the 1950s. And it's a puppet show.
To make a moving picture, you need a camera, some film, and something to take a picture of. Our camera shows the familiar streets of a nearby town, and Slowfoot, get your head out of the picture. And across the village square is a coffee house where an old sheikh often retells the beloved stories of Nasruddin Hoja.
Yes, and always manages to do it in the most right-wing anti-communist way possible, and with zero subtlety.
Slowfoot. Our donkey is very happy to see us again.
See, they already adjusted this one stylistically. Like, they didn't have this in the first one that we saw. This is from a couple years later. They've added some humor to it, because one of the things that the focus grouped audiences said was, this is about as subtle as a fucking anvil falling on you.
That is happy enough. Come along, Slowfoot. The sheikh will be waiting.
Yeah, I thought about doing more of this stuff specifically because I had gotten such a response on the horrors of communist dictator. So I went to the National Archives YouTube channel just to see what else I could dig up. And this was a huge surprise, because I had read about this stuff in declassified documents 20 years ago. And when I read how, Iraqis were taking the piss out of it then, in these classified reviews that the CIA did, I wanted to see them. But I had absolutely no idea where I might find them. And I just randomly came across them when I was looking for other stuff to look at on the stream.
What's this? Oh, it's that lazy young radical, Hamid.
Oh yeah, okay, so they're gonna use the same character. This is the communist. And the great thing about the communist character in this is that every single line of his is how a U.S. propagandist would describe the program of a communist party. Not the way a communist party would actually describe their own program, like just the way that you would expect the people who write movies like this to say it. Like, no attempt to even engage on that level. It's like if you were to ask Tim Pool what a communist party program would sound like.
Someday I'll blow up that place. What's wrong now, Hamid?
Whoever heard of a communist who wants to blow up a coffee shop?
I was just telling the waiter how rotten his coffee is. You'll never learn to get along with people, will you? It's a free country, isn't it? If they don't keep you locked up, it must be.
Wait, yes. I mean, I love how they've decided to make... I mean, this is what they must have been talking about when they said that... Because the audience has said this stuff insulted their intelligence. And the fact that the communist character has absolutely nothing to recommend him. They even made him look ugly. They even made him... Interestingly, they gave him a hooked nose, which did not really mean much in the Iraqi context, but of course in the US and Western European context that this comes from, is a way of signaling, if you're like really fucking anti-Semitic, that somebody is supposed to be maybe kind of Jewish. So they've just decided to make him just a completely unlikable asshole.
Well, I hope that fella keeps out of our way while the Sheikh tells of Nasruddin Hoxha.
Quiet! Stop the music! It's nothing but noise.
Hamid, have you no manners?
Well, of course not, because he's the unlikable communist character.
Have they nothing but that strange music?
It happens to be American music.
Bah, no.
I was wondering if that was going to be mentioned, because it's like, that isn't Iraqi music.
Wonder it's bad.
Do you condemn everything foreign, Hamid?
Yes, I do. If it's strange, it doesn't make sense.
But Hamid...
What, everything foreign?
What about our economic cooperation with other nations?
Nobody helps you for nothing in this world.
Hamid,
Well, I mean, he's not wrong. The U.S. certainly isn't known for helping people for nothing.
haven't you been taught anything but bitterness?
I've been taught not to trust Westerners.
Well, I wonder where somebody in a country that was colonized by Britain could possibly have learned not to like Westerners.
They dress differently. Their music is different. How can you trust them?
I mean, it just really on the nose, just such a perfect portrayal of what a 1950s communist radical in Iraq would be like.
I guess no one is perfect except Hamid and his friends.
Foreign people with their strange ways can't be any good.
Like he sounds like a fucking Daily Telegraph letter writer.
Can't understand them.
You are not trying to. Hamid has not yet learned that different people have their own ways of doing good. Even if
The
those
U.S.'s way of doing good involves dropping high explosives on our country.
ways seem strange to us. Now, let the musicians go on playing. You know, this reminds me of a story of Nasruddin Hoxha.
Of course
which
it
will
does.
show you what I mean.
Like, I mean, what gets me is How exactly is that even, like, let's remember the stated aim of this is to make people in Iraq not like communists. Well, I mean, if all the communists in Iraq were like this Hamid character, you wouldn't need the fucking movie, would you? Because they're impossible, because he just goes around just sort of slagging everybody off. Sounds like a fucking Daily Telegraph letter writer or a National Post letter writer, depending on where you are. And is just a pain in the ass. Like, why, surely, I mean, if that's the standard of agitprop. Oh shit. I'm sorry, how the hell did that happen? Oh, fucking hell. I don't know how that happened. Okay, there we go. Shall I back it up a little bit? We're only 3 minutes in. It is, being a visual medium, it is... So you didn't hear any of the... You didn't see any of the stuff I've been talking about? Fuck it, we'll back it up. I mean... A little bit anyway. We can skip over. Here we go. Yeah, thank you for saying so, Riveroon. Yes, you are never supposed to see my Twitch dashboard.
You need a camera, some film, and something to take a picture of. Our camera shows the familiar streets of a nearby town.
And just notice how badly done the puppetry is. Like, the way everybody walks. They all walk like they're fucking drunk and on the moon.
So, get your head out of the picture. And across the village square is a coffee house where an old sheikh often retells the beloved stories of Nasruddin Hoxha.
The coffee shop was in the last one, too.
Our donkey is very happy to see us again. That is happy enough. Come along, Slowfoot.
The fact that you can see the strings is kind of an on-the-nose visual metaphor, given that this is really badly done CIA propaganda.
We'll be waiting.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. I mean, whatever it is music that, like, US, like Hollywood would use for movies about the Arab world, as opposed to the sort of music and imagery that people in the Arab world might actually use for their movies.
What's this? Oh, it's that lazy young radical, Hamid.
Check out the nose on him.
Someday I'll blow up that place.
What's wrong now, Hamid?
They wouldn't press the notification bell or share my rant with their chat groups or their YouTube or their Facebook groups.
The waiter, how rotten his coffee is.
You will never learn to get along with people, will you?
It's a free country, isn't it?
If they don't keep you locked up, it must be.
Like, okay, this would be like an instructional video already for, like, communist organizers, because it's like, be nice to, like, because, like, wouldn't, like, the very first rule of, apart from just, you know, common decency when dealing with people who have shitty, difficult jobs that have them on their feet all the time and dealing with asshole customers, wouldn't, like, lesson number one be really nice to people in customer service jobs that you encounter, because those are people you would want to organize. You wouldn't, like, sit here and, like, ANSR their coffee. Hey, waiter, your fucking coffee sucks. Here, would you like to join my party? I got a socialist worker newspaper for you.
Well, I hope that fella keeps out of our way while the Sheikh tells of Nasruddin Hoxha.
Like, look at the way he walks. What the fuck is that? I mean, this is definitely not Dark Crystal. Is this the state of U.S. puppetry before Jim Henson?
Quiet! Stop the music! It's nothing but noise.
Hamid, have you no manners?
Have they nothing but that strange music?
It happens to be American music.
Bah,
And it's really annoying, actually.
no wonder it's bad.
Do you condemn everything foreign, Hamid?
Yes, I
Oh,
do.
yes.
If it's strange, it doesn't make sense.
But Hamid...
See, notice
What
the
about-
other people's noses, the sympathetic characters' noses, and then notice Hamid's nose.
our economic cooperation with other nations?
Nobody helps you for nothing in this world. Ha!
We get a profile
Hamid,
shot where you can really see
Haven't
it.
you been...
There, you can kind of see him on the right there. Look at that big ass, now I hadn't noticed anyone else's noses before this, but they very clearly did not give this guy, for example, that kind of a hook nose.
been taught anything but bitterness?
I've been taught not to trust Westerners. They dress differently. Their music is different. How can you trust them?
I guess no one is perfect except Hamid and his friends.
Foreign people with their strange ways can't be any good. You
Like-
can't understand them.
Wow, I mean, they really just got the spirit of proletarian internationalism here.
You are not trying to. Hamid has not yet learned the difference.
Yeah, look, I mean, the Sheikh here also has just a pretty normally shaped nose. But only Hamid, the one guy we are not supposed to like, has this fucking hook
And
nose.
people have their own ways
This is
of
some Nazi
doing good.
shit.
Even if those ways seem strange to us.
Hello, Mask of the Red Death. In
No.
case you missed the intro to this is something I found on the U.S. National Archives YouTube channel that I'd been wanting to see for 20 whole years. This is anti-communist propaganda that the CIA made specifically for Iraq in the 1950s. I knew about it because there was a collection of declassified documents from the CIA in Iraq in the 50s that got released on the National Security Archives website. And it was all focus group reports from CIA operatives who were like asking the audiences who saw these things what they thought of them, and they all thought they sucked. And so I've always wanted to see them, to see what it was that was so insultingly bad.
The musicians go on playing. You know, this reminds me of a
Bloody foreigners coming in here wanting to know what love is.
story of Nasruddin Hoxha, which will show you what I mean.
See, another just kind of normal looking nose. It's only Hamid who has that hook nose. The one guy nobody's supposed to like. Okay, that dude has a bit of a honker, but...
Centuries ago, when the conquering Emperor Tamerlane came to rule, he sent messengers to all corners of the land with a royal order that every village must choose a wise man to be the local judge. But if the emperor did not approve their choice, then a military governor would be sent to rule the village.
So it sounds kind of like a U.S. arrangement, more or less.
Choose a wise judge or suffer military rule.
Like, did they consider how this particular setup would play to people who were at that time just finishing throwing off British colonial domination? Because this bears more than a passing resemblance to the sort of shit the Brits pulled.
This was a problem. Where in their little village could they find a man wise enough to be a judge and fool enough to face the emperor? The only man they could think of was Nasr-ad-Din Hoxha, who did everything in his own strange but wise way. Perhaps the Hoxha would be just the man to go before the Emperor Tamerlane.
Yeah. What is this doctrine of chevron deference you speak of?
The Emperor naturally wanted proof
Yes, but
of
they
every man's
are not,
wisdom.
I have to say,
And so he demanded that Nasr-ad-Din
I've seen really good puppetry where they managed to get the walking looking really natural and shit like that, and this is not really good puppetry. They would never let these puppeteers anywhere near a fucking Gelfling.
Hoxha read from his book of law. But because Tamerlane was a foreigner, his laws were written in a foreign tongue. How the Emperor laughed at the puzzled Hoxha.
You are no wiser than the others. My gentle officers will have to rule your village.
At this threat, the Hoxha summoned the last of his courage. Not only can I read your good laws, sire, but I can even teach my donkey to read them. Give me the book and 1 week's time, sire. That is all I ask to prove my wisdom. Now the Emperor was puzzled.
Yes, because that is a bit of a weird thing to say.
If you can do such a thing, I will admit you are not a fool. But 1 week is
Like, wouldn't you admit he is a fool for even suggesting such a thing?
all you get.
When news of this bargain reached the palace gate,
Everybody's walking like they gotta take a shit.
Hoxha's friends became more worried than ever. They understood that Nasr-ad-Din did things in his own strange way. But this time, how could a donkey read? At last the week was up, and Tamerlane commanded, "Let the donkey read."
Wait, he didn't say he had to read aloud.
It didn't seem possible. Little did the Emperor guess that Nasr-ad-Din had hidden grains of barley between the pages. A strange way indeed, but it did look as though the donkey was reading.
Okay, what the hell does this have to do with the point that they were making in the beginning? Oh, that's because this was made in 1953. That's why everything sounds 1950s. This literally is 1950s CIA propaganda.
And so Tamerlane had to approve Nasr-ad-Din as judge of his village. But he dismissed the Hoxha with a warning.
It is harder for a wise man to remain wise than for a fool to be a fool. And if I ever catch you doing
You
a
better
foolish
keep
act,
up on your continuing
it will
education
be
units.
your last.
Well, the point they seem to be making, to the extent that you could say anything, is that, communist agitators don't like anything, are very nasty to the waitstaff, and particularly hate everything foreign. That seemed to be the point that they were starting to make with their character Hamid, the hook-nosed communist radical. I mean, so far we haven't seen anything in here that actually suggests that foreign domination is exactly, I don't know, a lark.
Now the Emperor's guard had heard many stories of the Hocha's strange ways, and when he told them to his master, Tamerlane decided it would be wise to follow the Hocha and watch him closely.
That would give me motion sickness, personally. They're so inconspicuous up there.
So, Hocha, you claim to be a wise man and you ride your donkey backwards? That is the way of a fool.
I had no idea this was codified.
But this time the Hocha was not afraid. Sire, if I rode my donkey forward, my back would always be to my friends. This way I can travel and talk to them at the same time.
They don't actually say, but this was intended for Iraq in the 1950s. So I suppose we're supposed to think this is someplace, I don't know, in Iraq or someplace, you know, Ottoman-y perhaps. I mean, Nasruddin Hoja is a character that is kind of universal to, like, Muslim folklore.
I am certain that you will understand this, since my donkey does. And with a wisdom that came from understanding, the Emperor agreed that although the Hocha did things in his own way, they made very good sense indeed.
Yeah, but he's just taking the piss.
And still the lesson remains for us. People have their own ways of doing things, and though the ways may seem strange to us, when we try to understand, they make good sense. Nasruddin knew this. I wonder if we do.
So that is the two exemplars of a CIA propaganda intended for Iraq in the 1950s that were universally panned by the reviews that showed up in the archives later on, decades later. So we got a number of options for continuing, since we've got a fair bit of time left. We've got some turf shit. Kathleen Stock is standing up for lesbians. I'm sure, personally, being a lesbian myself, I'd like her to fucking sit down. We've got Sanderhall. This new progressive victory project is so cool! We've got, what is the path forward for liberal Zionism? We've got some Darman bullshit. Billionaire dates for publicity. We've got, let's see. We can continue with J Street's bullshit statehood proposal for the Palestinians, which does not include territory or any kind of right to self-defense or anything. And then there's Ben Shapiro asks, can America be saved? Any particular preferences? We got some time. So, Ben Shapiro, Xander Hole, some more of the J Street bullshit, or some Darman bullshit? What's everybody's pleasure? It's Nasreddin Hoja. Sometimes spelled with a C in Turkish renditions, because C in Turkish is J. Don't know why they didn't just go ahead and make JJ, but they didn't. They made CJ. C is a letter with some serious adventures. Yeah, maybe look in on Slander Hall, although I am kind of curious about Can America Be Saved with Ben Shapiro, the official vaginal desiccator of YouTube. Okay, this new Progressive Victory project, which seems to be the new grift Xander Hole is doing, is so cool.
Alright, everybody. Today I've got something really exciting to tell you guys about, because very often I'm talking about how there aren't really a lot of direct ways that you can impose your political opinions.
Wow, that's quite a way of putting it.
In a powerful way on society, like make people
impose your political opinions in a powerful way on society. He's just told us a lot about how he sees the world.
People believe what you believe, it affect the outcomes of elections and policy making, etc. At many times it can feel like you're kind of powerless, even if you do vote, even if you do protest. It can feel very
you saying that voting is not it does not give you a sense of power? I've been lied to.
If your goal, presumably, if you're watching me, your goal is to try to keep actual fascists from gaining power, from holding office, whether it be the Senate, whether it be further Republican presidents, putting more Supreme Court justices that are amiable to Republican beliefs on the Supreme Court, go down the list.
Yes. So like, at least some of the actual yes. By actual yes. Defender of the Faith it's a common, it's a fairly common name you do also hear. Well, what he means by that is the segment is Republicans. He means Republicans. Like, he doesn't, I mean, it will shock you to hear that he has absolutely no robust class-based analysis of fascism.
If you're trying to keep Republicans and fascists and what have you out of office,
I don't know about his new lightings.
Then you probably are going to be very interested in this, and it may make you feel far less powerless. How many of you guys are familiar with Progressive Victory? I talk about them a lot.
Yeah, I remember him talking. In fact, since he's been talking about it, he has just turned his channel into just all Biden shilling all the time. He, including a particularly remarkable moment where he suggests that the real victim of the Gaza genocide is Joe Biden.
I actually work with them right now because I
I'm
believe
shocked.
a lot in what they're trying to do, and I really like that there's actually a thing that we can get involved with to have an impact and make a change, and potentially keep Republicans out of office and get...
So, I mean, what you're saying, it sounds like, is that this is a way to get Democrats elected. You're using a lot of words, but it sounds like it's just a way to get Democrats elected.
Progressives elected. Yeah, we love progressive victory. I think Vosh recently raised, like, a bunch of money for a canvassing event with Progressive Victory for a charity stream. So that was...
Wait, what? Okay, when was this?
Super cool. Yeah, Progressive Victory does canvassing events. They do door
Hang on,
knocking.
I have to know when this was
They've done
made.
interviews.
12 days ago. So this is after... Wait. Wait, so they took a whole bunch of money fundraised by Vosh after his fucking CP stash, his PDF file prawn got exposed on stream, and they're still returning his calls. Do these motherfuckers vet? Have they heard of vetting?
Interviews with candidates. They are currently running, as well, a YouTube channel.
Oh, they are? Okay, chat, I gotta, we're at a crossroads here. Do we want to continue watching this jabroni, or would we like to see the jabronis over at the Progressive Victory Project YouTube channel? Because I'm low-key curious.
It is called Progressive Victory PV Spotlight.
Okay. Abortion debate immediately turns chaotic. Marjorie Taylor Greene humiliated by Mike Johnson. Trump's lawyer says he's above the law.
And it is a compilation channel. You might have actually, if you sub to this channel, you might see me. Oh, yep, there I am.
Wait, what? So their channel, all they're doing is compilations of liberal streamers, is what this is? Wait, River Rune, do I understand that you know something about this group? Share with us. Yeah, I would imagine as he's claimed by a lot of people because, like, the tales of Nasreddin Hoja go as far, go as far as, like, I believe the Uyghurs also have Hoja stories. I think they have them in, like, Indonesia. They're basically everywhere where there are Muslims, essentially. Oh, Eski Shahir. I have a friend from there. Okay, Riveroon, yeah, I'm very curious about what you have to report about the PV project, which when I see that abbreviation means something else to me. Okay. Wait, okay, so I'm already noticing, God, this is such a cursed lineup. Here, I'm gonna link this, maybe we can, so you can just see this fucking thumbnail here. You've got Destiny on one side and Vush on the other side. Yeah, exactly. Universal figure. And it's like... Jesus. That's very progressive and victorious and projected.
Conservatives want to ban what? This is from a month ago. I get used in some of these as well. I have, of course, given permission for some of my content to be used here. Obviously, Dylan has.
Oh, wow. Okay, so, well, Dylan's in there. You know it's good. So is it, like, all ex-Fash grifters? Because I know that's Dylan. I mean, he still monetizes his Fash videos, last I heard.
Is this IRI? Yeah, this is I'm Really Important. Yeah, a bunch of people both in the online left and even some like non-leftist content creators that just agree Trump and the Republicans are bad. You'll see a lot of
non-leftist content creators. Oh, I'm sure that's going to be great. Michael Knowles still doesn't understand trans people. What makes you think that he wants to understand trans people?
of them on here making pretty solid content, clipped and uploaded. And if you're ever looking to find some new content creators to check out that are making good content,
well,
this is a good
nothing
place.
is shitter than the sort of people that Xanderhole will include in the context of, oh, yes, thank you very much, Mask of the Red Death. I mean, what is Xanderhole's definition even of a leftist content creator? I mean, he considers himself one. But, like, which of the, I mean, the people that he, that were in the video that, read, if you go to, documents of interest, River Rune has posted a couple of videos on PV. Yeah, okay, so just, so dodgy, grifty fuckers.
To look. In fact,
it's the DGF crew.
I thought we'd watch the most recent one on here, which seems to be a clip from Dylan Burns.
Oh, wow. I mean, well, that's
called
wonderful.
Trump's Lawyer Says He's Above the Law. We're not going to watch the whole thing. I just wanted to play
It would be so weird for a U.S. president to be above the law. I mean, that never happens.
a little bit of it. God damn it! I need to get used to this new mouse. I keep on right-clicking instead of left-clicking.
That is what we call a metaphor.
I need to. We're gonna watch like the first just bit of it, so you guys can get a taste of what this channel is like. And see, fucking.
Hope you didn't eat.
Damn it! I keep doing it every time.
Yeah, I mean that. There's no metaphor in there at all. That Xanderhall is just constantly clicking right when he supposedly means to be clicking left. I mean, that's not funny at all. There is absolutely nothing that somehow is on the nose about that.
I need to get used to this new mouse. I've been playing a lot of FF14 with it, so I've got this claw grip that I use in the two top. But you can't see my mouse, so you guys don't know. There's buttons right here that I use specifically for FF14, and I keep putting my fingers in a claw grip.
That's Fettuccine Fucker 14, right?
To hit them like I'm doing AoEs. Anyway, let's watch the first bit of this video here so you guys get an idea of what the PV Spotlight channel has to offer, because I think it's pretty neat. I'm a big...
Wow, if he thinks it's pretty neat, then we know...
fan of this idea, and I was quite...
Wow, Xanderhole is a fan of an idea of a channel that markets his content. Yeah, I'd be a fan of a channel that markets my content too. I think that's wonderful.
Excited when I heard that this was being made, and I was asked if it was okay to have some of my content put on this channel.
Wait till you hear about all of the content of yours that's on my channel.
I highly encourage you to go subscribe. Oh.
It's insane. I mean, I don't think they're going to rule in a maximally pro-Trump way. I think even they recognize, yeah, you can't just cut a president a blank check to commit crimes with impunity. But I do think they would remand it back.
Well, like, seriously, why can't you? That's how presidents have worked for, like, the entire history of this country. That's why it was so special that suddenly an ex-president was being held accountable for even some of his crimes.
Back to D.C. or district court to just drag it out because that helps Trump as well.
I was listening to the back and forth. I didn't listen to the whole 3-4.
Okay, just out of curiosity, which of these two is Dylan Burns?
4 hours, mostly for a few reasons. One of which being
is it Jack Sparrow or Michael Brooks's stunt double?
Hard to listen to Trump's lawyer, honestly.
Yeah,
it just was. It was bizarre. The arguments I was hearing, to the point that I thought I must not understand the legalese. I must not understand. He's not...
Wow, I would be shocked if Dylan Burns, I assume, did not understand legalese.
Actually saying that as long as he finds he confines his actions within the role of the presidency, then an attempted military coup would technically he'd be immune of prosecution from, or an assassination of political opponent. Because I remember.
So for those that don't remember, because this is from a month ago, they're discussing the fact that Trump was trying to argue that there is a clause within our legal structure.
A clause within our legal structure. I mean, like, assassinating political opponents is something that U.S. presidents have been known to do. It's one of their little things they do. It's one of their quirks. You know,
that goes back like hundreds of years to the founding of America, claiming that the president, the sitting president, is immune to any consequences of a crime they committed.
Well, if this isn't the case, maybe you could show us which U.S. president did any time for the crimes that they committed?
While president. Which is Trump's current, or back then, was his attempt to defend himself when people said, what the fuck, why should you be allowed to run? You're literally a felon. And also tried to overturn the election while you were president. And he's like, believe it if you find me guilty of that. Because I was president when I did it, you would be allowed to find me even guilty, you know?
That's not Donald Trump. That's Milton Wadhams from Office Space. You're gonna have to find his stapler.
It would be allowed. You couldn't keep me from running again.
I'm allowed to listen to it at a reasonable volume?
That's pretty much his claim. He wants to be completely legally immune. This channel is really good for if you just want to find a lot of good different content creators from all around the online left.
All around them. I mean, you've got them all. You've got everything from Dylan Burns to fucking Xander Hall. That's the full spectrum right there.
Online. I keep saying online, but online is a pretty relevant word to this conversation. Highly recommend you go sub to the channel. In fact...
Well, yes, for acts committed while in office. And of course, I mean, prior to Trump, there were 44 presidents who never were prosecuted for any crime they committed while in office, backing up the argument that there is precedent for that.
Why have I not already dropped the link? Is there a canon reason why I haven't dropped my, dropped the link here yet? In my...
Because you're a twat.
Chat? Am I stupid? There you go.
No
Let's resume. Go subscribe. Do it now.
Saying, like, wait, with this logic, if Trump's immune as president, then he could go assassinate his opponent. And like Biden, Biden take the wheel, and that was the joke.
That is the joke amongst people who don't know anything about the history of what the U.S. government has actually done to political opponents in its history. Like, I mean, have you fucking heard of Fred Hampton?
And then they went out and they made the joke real.
Yeah. So here's the thing that frustrates me is, I mean, the questions got pretty pointed from the justices, particularly Justice...
I mean, okay, does this mean that they think that Biden ought to be subject to prosecution after he leaves office for, I don't know, just off the top of my head, the genocide that he's doing, for example? Do they think that, I mean... I know Xander Hall has said that Biden's the real victim in that because it's hurting his re-election chances, which is really a pity because we're talking about a real American hero there. I mean, he's the guy who beat Medicare. So that he'd be laid low by just the fact that he's involved in genocide. But, I mean, or are they also doing this thing, which has been the entire way that all of this has been done, where they carve out the most arcane possible exception, the most uniquely Trump offenses that they could possibly come up with, just so that in the future they have an excuse for why they're not prosecuting. I have no idea. Dylan Burns is a reactionary of some kind. Everything I've heard about him has been dodgy as hell. but I don't know about CIA adjacent. Oh, but I do think at one point he did a thing about... No, that was Vosh. Vosh is the one who did a thing freaking out about how bad it was that CIA agents in the world were getting murked.
Jackson, but even Justices Kagan and Sotomayor, they were pretty pointed. And there were even times that, like, Chief Justice Roberts and even Alito and Thomas, you could tell they were like, this is kind of fucked. But I wanted somebody. I wanted somebody, and hope like Sotomayor or Jackson be like, okay, counsel talking to Trump's attorney. Let's get super real. I know we're asking you some hypotheticals. Let's get super real. We asked you the hypothetical, which is if we believe, or if a president.
Good God, this white monster, is it alcoholic? Like fucking hell.
I thought, when he said this white monster, I was like...
It tastes. Like it sets off the same taste buds in my mouth that drinking like vodka and like a fruity mixer gives me. Like you might as well fill this with vodka because it tastes like it's got...
Well, yes, except that with, by definition, that is not entirely accurate, because you have to remember that there is international law. The U.S. pretends that international law does not exist, but Article 6, Section 2 of the Constitution does say that we're supposed to actually be following it. And under international law, there is not a president since 1945 who has not committed crimes that were capital offenses at Nuremberg. I mean, so if we narrow the definition to simply pretend that, the genocides and the mass murders in other countries and aggression and all the stuff that Telford, it was like the chief, was it Jackson or Telford Taylor who said this? Said, if we're giving these defendants at Nuremberg a poison chalice, we need to understand that one day we might be drinking from it. There was this whole speech about how we're not holding them to any law, accountable to any principles that we would not have raised against ourselves and all this shit. And that's not how that worked out.
Vodka in it. Like, I might as well go find some and mix it up. Because it tastes like it's got alcohol in it. If there was alcohol in it, I wouldn't be able to taste a difference. It tastes like it's alcoholic. It's setting off those bitter taste receptors in the sides of my tongue, which isn't even real, but it tastes like that's the...
Yeah, that's sort of fitting that a white monster would set off bitter receptors.
Case. Like that science that you have like different parts of your tongue taste different tastes isn't even real. But the sides of my tongue, which are supposed to taste bitter...
I mean, the best tell for what for whether there is whether the age of impunity is in fact ending with all this Trump shit is the way that all the people who are freaking out and losing their shit over the possibility that the International Criminal Court might start issuing warrants against a couple of Israeli officials for a very, very limited array of the crimes they've been committing. They very pointedly left out things like torture and, mass sexual assault and shit like that they are documented as having committed. But, the same people who are more or less just eating popcorn and watching all this Trump bullshit are absolutely losing their shit over that. Because that actually sounds like the possibility of some kind of accountability. I'm not saying it's a realistic possibility. I think it's actually extremely remote. But it establishes the principle. It establishes the principle in a way that clearly this Trump shit is not doing.
Tastes bitter. Probably the caffeine? No, normal Monster does not taste... normal Monster tastes like liquid green Jolly Rancher.
Yes, but I mean, this is Monster plus whiteness. There's gonna be some bitter aftertaste.
This tastes like liquid pink mixing stuff that you mix with like vodka. Like, remember?
Liquid pink mixing stuff.
Remember when I would do the watch party streams and I would drink like those vodka?
Bueno, lo que me cabe decir es que yo no lo vi un poquitito después, pero la realidad es que estos supuestos debates son pura estafa. Son una huevada completamente chanta que no tiene nada que ver con nada.
Pink drinks. This tastes like that. Only those had vodka in them. This doesn't.
The president believes that his political rival is corrupt.
I do not endorse White Monster Energy. Sorry.
No, your entire channel is White Monster Energy.
Could he issue a command to have that person?
I think I speak for every single member of Progressive Victory when I say White Monster Energy fucking sucks.
Assassinated. And you said it depends on whether or not that constitutes an official act. He may need to be impeached and convicted first.
And of course, I mean, there is literal precedent of this because, of course, Obama famously defended the right to order extrajudicial executions as long as it was done by drones, and argued that you could not say it was a denial of due process because he thought real hard about it.
So let's get really...
So, I mean, like, literally, these extreme examples they're coming up with are literally things that other presidents have regularly got away with.
Personal. The current president of the United States is Joseph Robinette Biden, your client's political rival. President Biden has publicly stated that he thinks that Donald Trump is a corrupt authoritarian.
And, I mean, which you can say, you know, it does take one to know one.
So would you care to look into whatever microphone, obviously they're on cameras, would you care to speak into the microphone and say to the president, who's probably listening right now, that he can assassinate your client, even though you would prefer he...
No. They need to have a duel. They need to have a duel, and it needs to be with fully automatic weapons on the select fire function, so that everybody wins.
Didn't. And not be held criminally accountable unless he's first impeached and convicted. Would you like? I invite you to go ahead and say that. I want I wanted a justice to say that because you can tell throughout the course of the conversation that even Sauer was like, "Fuck, I was hoping you wouldn't ask me this question, but I'll bite the bullet." Somebody should have.
What the fuck's that gesture just now?
Supreme Court was legitimately trying to
I'd love to have this conversation. These three guys are exactly who I would go to for Supreme Court commentary. I mean, who knows better how oral arguments in the Supreme Court work than fucking Xander Hole and Dylan Burns? GGM is asking about the debate the other day, which I was saying I didn't see, and I wanted to share this into chat. See, it used to be, some people will be old enough to remember this, that presidential debates were organized by the League of Women Voters, sort of a very respectable, liberal, like, good government kind of NGO sort of civil society thing. Until the final debate between, I believe it was Bush and Clinton, which is when the current debate format really kind of took shape, where the whole thing just ended up being totally scripted. And so both campaigns went to the League of Women Voters with their terms and conditions and said, you know, this is all non-negotiable. We will not accept any other questions, any other questioners. Only the only press that we want in the room are the people who, you know, we've vetted and are going to play ball with us. And we don't want any questions other than the ones we've written down for our candidates to be asked and shit like that. And the League of Women Voters absolutely just, they were not having it. And they issued a press release at the time saying that they were not going to be, a party to what they considered a fraud on the people. And this is the thing, is that presidential debates have become less spontaneous since then. They're even more just a scripted bullshit event.
Effort to essentially give Trump a get out of jail free card for if he is found guilty of anything he did that was legal while president, which is a lot of things. They give
it's a lot of things for all of them, though.
They're giving him the green light to save democracy, Helldivers 2 style. No, I don't think that's the. I don't think that's what they're doing at all. Actually,
Vast.
Wow, are you sure about that, Zan? Do you want to go out on that limb that they're not actually trying to give him the green light to save democracy, Helldivers 2 style?
It's a question very pointedly like that, because it is an absurd
Sí, porque
proposition.
lo que pasa es que el Biden es demente. Además de genocida, el hueón es demente. No tenía idea de en qué cosa andaba. Y terminó por decir weas completamente absurdas. Más absurda de lo que normalmente dice cuando está hablando en una situación un poco más normal, cuando su capacidad cognitiva están en un nivel un poco más alto. Sí. Yeah, he beat Medicare. Well, I mean, I like the idea of just having them be duels. But I think the way it should work is that the seconds actually are given the are the ones who pull the triggers.
They also said,
"Oh, Biden W, is that true, to Lancer? The UN has passed the G7. Wait, the UN passed support and the G7 passed support for the Biden Gaza ceasefire plan."
Which isn't really accurate, and of course the U.S. immediately rejected it.
Yeah, I mean, the ceasefire plan is pretty overwhelmingly popular. Like, there's a lot of support for it, and right now, even like the moderate right-wing government in Israel is looking to oust
the moderate right-wing government in Israel. Like, what? Okay, this is a government that is full of people who proudly identify as fascists. Like, what constitutes what would be an extreme right-wing government to Xander Hall if those motherfuckers are moderate?
Netanyahu. Do you guys know that? Like, the moderate, like, not even, like, neocon? I don't even know what the term for it is. Like,
fascist, actually.
Like,
God, this guy, as ignorant as he is on U.S. politics, watching him try to opine on Israeli politics.
The, like, hyper-bureaucratic, like, normal, not insane, genocidal Nazi right wing. And
that does not exist. Like, literally, not even in public opinion, really. If you actually look at the polls in Israel, the genocide, not only the main criticism people seem to have in the Israeli Jewish population, according to these polls, is that there's not enough genocide going on.
And Israel wants to, like, overthrow Netanyahu. Like, Netanyahu is the guy that wants the war to continue.
He's not the only one who wants it to continue. Like, the entire fucking war cabinet does, and Benny Gantz wants it to continue, too. I mean, there's all this posturing over these fantasies about the day after, which everybody paying attention knows is just silly, because there is not going to be this day after. It is all just an excuse to keep going.
Despite everything, and even the, like, right wing in Israel are like, can we just overthrow this guy? Like,
no, they're not, motherfucker. No, they're not. Like, where the hell is, like, where is he even getting this shit from?
Can we just get him out of here? Like, we don't even want to keep, like, neither Hamas or a lot of Israel seem to want to continue the war at this point. Because on one hand,
no, actually, I mean, again, not true. Not true. It is overwhelmingly popular in Israel. Like, literally the only people who have been repeatedly calling for a durable, long-term, permanent ceasefire is Hamas, actually. That's been the sticking point. Israel and the U.S. keep on saying, no, we won't accept any deal that includes a permanent ceasefire.
The idea that Hamas has been crushed is pretty popularly agreed upon.
But it hasn't been, though, is the thing. And actually, no, it isn't popularly agreed upon. In fact, if you look at the polls on the question, is Israel winning the war? At the beginning of the genocide, it was 60% of Israeli Jews said Israel was winning the thing. That, by a couple of weeks ago, was down to 10%. Nobody seriously thinks that Israel is winning. And anyone who actually is paying any attention knows they're not even trying. They're not seeking out contact with the fucking armed resistance. They are avoiding the resistance and going to where the civilians are. The only time they have contact with the resistance is when the resistance catches up with them and then kicks them out of the area. Usually within 24 hours of Yoav Gallant claiming that they have achieved absolute operational control over some part of the Gaza Strip.
Even among Israel's government. And on top of that, the idea that, like, holy shit, this needs to stop, any means to stop this possible, is pretty popular among the Palestinian people. So, like, yeah, there's a pretty broad agreement. Even Hamas doesn't want to continue to get hammered by Israel, right?
But they're not getting hammered by Israel, is the thing. And I love how he says even Hamas, as if it wasn't, as if they are like recent adopters of the idea that this should end, as opposed to being the only ones in the negotiations who have insisted on it ending.
So even they have an interest in the bombing stopping for at least a time.
Oh, even they do. Oh, fuck you, man. I mean, he manages to get this sort of, like, genocidal pro-Israel propaganda in there, even when he's just looking at other dickheads.
So it just seems like it's inevitable this is going to go through, even if there continues to be, like, fighting and death until then.
Fighting and death. Like, the death is mostly happening in places where there is no fighting.
The only person holding up the deal is Netanyahu? Yeah, like, even, like...
And Biden. Like, if Biden didn't want Netanyahu to hold up the deal, there are ways he could make him change his mind.
Literally, the conservatives in government in Israel are openly talking about ousting Netanyahu.
No, God. He's just pulling the shit out of his ass.
Like, it is headline making. That public. It's not even like a...
Ja, also das Führerprinzip, ja, das passt ja.
A hidden, like, secret. It's not even like an open secret. It's like...
Yeah, it's not an open secret. It's not a hidden secret. It's some bullshit that you just made up. And the idea that the people, that, you know, the leading opposition figures in Israeli Jewish society want to end this thing, want to put an end to it, that's also just nonsense. The one thing that there is consensus on is exterminating the Palestinians in Gaza. There's not even a single, like, reasonable voice saying, wait a second, maybe dial back all this talk about invading Lebanon because we're gonna get our asses kicked. They literally show how we're able to get drones over Haifa at low altitude and photograph a whole lot of extremely sensitive sites.
Just an open thing.
Hey, okay, what if he wants to sell nuclear codes? Well, I mean, it depends on how it's constructed, but yeah, it could constitute an official act. What if he wanted to stage a coup, which is even worse than trying to assassinate a political rival?
Well, I mean, yeah, because it would be such a weird hypothetical for a U.S. president to stage a coup. Like, all of Latin America is looking at this like, ¿acaso no nos conoce, weón?
Well, I mean, depending on how that's constituted, it could be an official act. So he'd have to...
It was weird because they actually...
It's been an official act every single time a U.S. president has done that.
Well, he was like, well, depending on how it's done. And then the justice, I think I could hear it in her voice, like, what do you mean it depends on how it's done? And she, like, lays out a scenario. It's like, okay.
Are you saying that George W. Bush should have been prosecuted for the coup in Haiti in 2004? I mean, obviously he should. But are any of these jabronis gonna say that?
calls his general.
I'm pretty certain Dylan is streaming this, by the way, from like a bunker in Ukraine. Like I'm pretty certain this is like an actual like bunker in like Kharkiv or something like that.
Yeah, a bunk. Yeah, this definitely looks like a bunker. It looks like a fucking office.
Like Dylan is going crazy with the content. If you're watching a Dylan stream, there's a good chance you're...
Yeah, that's so wonderful to just go to a fucking war zone for, like, streaming clout. That's wild. That's wonderful. That's such a responsible thing to do, too.
Watching him... he's in someone's basement. That is a bunker. If you are underground in Ukraine during the war, you're in a bunker. That, like, the subway stations and shelters are now bunkers. That is what I mean.
Well, I mean, the subway stations were actually designed to be.
Yeah. It's a nice basement, though, seriously. It's, like, got that nice, like, upholstery type thing going on. It kind of reminds me of what I got going on here, but that's wood. It's an apartment he rented, I think.
I do not need to hear about Xander Hall having wood.
Really? I hope he's underground. Like, I hope he's underground. Oh, man. Like, he goes out into the world as the war is happening and...
Like, why? Like, seriously, shut the fuck up.
Does, like, on-the-ground journalism and shit.
No, like, that isn't... Just because you have a camera with you while you do a publicity stunt, that does not make it journalism.
And you want to know what he gets for it, by the way? YouTube has had him demonetized for a year, continues to double down on it, and has recently been issuing false strikes. It's bad. It's really bad. Like, YouTube is very much aiming to kill Dylan's channel by the end of the year. They've taken so much money from him, yeah, a lot. I mean, like, YouTube fully supports the Taliban and Russia and China and Saudi Arabia. Like,
yeah, I mean, that's what Google... First of all, Saudi Arabia, does he not of course he doesn't understand. Saudi Arabia is a fucking U.S. client state. Why are you putting Saudi Arabia with China and Russia? Saudi Arabia is the U.S., actually. Like, oh god. That's so terrible that he's getting demonetized for doing war porn. Okay, we are reaching the witching hour.
Like, all these awful regimes, like, YouTube can virtue signal how much they support minorities as much as they like, but the regimes that actively oppress them, they...
Like the US, like Israel...
endorse. The CEO will send letters to YouTubers with, like, slurs in their name. Because, like, the CEO of YouTube signs every congratulations on 100,000 or 1 million subs letter.
Yeah, YouTube likes fash. I mean, the ruling class in general seem to rather like fash. They certainly are not doing anything to algorithmically stifle them.
Along with the silver play button. So if you've got a channel like the Offensive T-Slur channel, or something like that, and they have... like the 100K sub plaque, the CEO of YouTube signed a congratulations letter with a big font, a big bold of that username at the top.
Wait, was it serif or non-serif? Like, what kind of font? We gotta... I didn't know any fonts were involved. Fuck. They're fonts. Like, was there a serif? Have we got a positive serif here?
For the page. So, like... These companies don't give a fuck.
Adam, welcome.
They really don't. Does YouTube support Israel? YouTube supports whatever makes them money. Outrage bait makes them the most money. They just have to pretend like they don't support it, which is like very
They don't pretend not to support Israel, though.
Sending, you know, when you actually don't support that kind of stuff.
His generals who, you know, as the president of the United States, he'd have regular conversations with, and he tells them, you know, I don't really want to step down. Let's do this thing. And he seemed to give it notion that that would be within the bounds of the presidency. That wouldn't be him acting as a private citizen, and therefore he would be immune from it, whether it was successful or not.
I really like Dylan's
I think Pyongyang actually holds that record for the deepest, at least, or maybe it's for the deepest overall system. Because the Pyongyang metro system is extremely deep. Okay, well, it is time to wrap up. Thanks to everyone who joined in. I hope you enjoyed the stream. Good to see you, Mask of the Red Death. I haven't seen you in a while, and it's good to see you back. I will be back on Friday, first at 16:30 U.S. Eastern Time on Hyperpolyglotting, where we're gonna continue looking at the best and worst of language YouTube and maybe playing some GeoGuessr or some shit. Maybe a different game, or maybe just GeoGuessr. And then at 11:30, 23:30 U.S. Eastern Time for this shit on Friday and Saturday. And I hope to see you then. And I'll see you in the Discord in between. Thank you to everyone. See you later. Good one, Jinjiri. Thank you for showing up too. Always good to see you.